and a very warm welcome to this week's episode on cultural communication confidence, where we'll be talking about CQ, cultural intelligence, and the positive impact it can have for you personally and for your business. We'll be talking about what is CQ today, what is cultural intelligence, and exploring the key aspects of it. You may not know much about it yet, but you've probably experienced when there has been high CQ in your interactions and team working. What you'll notice is that the team is working well together, the communication flows, the meetings are going really well, and of course, you're finally getting to the results that you need. On the other side, if there is low CQ and there really isn't the levels there to require good team working, then actually what happens is that people end up being very frustrated with each other. Perhaps you find that not much really gets done in meetings, and this leads to delays in your projects and actually can have really an impact on your results. So this is why CQ, cultural intelligence, is so important. So let's explore it in more detail. We do live in a globalized world, and of course we are very used to connecting with each other and working in teams virtually, whether internally or externally. That is, of course, absolutely what happens. But, cultural intelligence is a really important factor if we want to be successful in the way that we connect with others, we interact with them, and we relate to them. I've worked with a number of different cultural frameworks over the years and found different ones that have different aspects that worked. But actually the one that I have found, which really does make sure that we look at all aspects of our cultural intelligence, is the CQ framework from the Cultural Intelligence Centre. This particular framework is in some ways incredibly simple. It only has 4 key steps to it. However, it is incredibly powerful and it goes way beyond just cultural awareness or cultural insights, which many of the others stop at. So today I want to give you that overview of the CQ framework, the Cultural Intelligence Framework from the Cultural Intelligence Centre. And we're going to do a brief introduction into the core elements of this so you can understand what it takes to really increase your own CQ. So the framework has these 4 areas: CQ drive, CQ knowledge, CQ strategy, and CQ action. And we're going to go into each of these in turn now. So let's start with your CQ drive. What this is about is understanding your motivation and drivers for working in cross-cultural teams. For some people, they make the assumption that just because somebody already works in lots of international teams, or perhaps they've had international experience and lived in different countries, this means that they have very high CQ. The reality is somebody might be doing these actions or living abroad, but they may not have that high CQ level because they're not necessarily driven or motivated by it. So CQ drive is measuring and assessing how motivated are we by this? Do we really get personal reward when we work with others in a multicultural environment? Does that really light us up and really energize us? Do we see the personal benefits to ourselves, whether it's about our reputation or our career? And do we see the benefits for our business, whether that's in a large business environment, corporate environment, or running our own businesses? Do we really understand this? So that is CQ drive. From there, we then go into CQ knowledge. Now, CQ knowledge is important, of course. It's the insights into what happens in a particular culture. What is it that makes people tick and how business is done? It explores things such as the similarities and the differences between different cultures. And it's really kind of looking at how do people kind of do things. And that one way of doing that and analysing that is through cultural values. And that is something which is very powerful to look at. And certainly, I'm sure we'll do a future episode around it as well. But in isolation, it doesn't really take us forward with our CQ. So we have to have that knowledge. We can get that knowledge in a variety of ways, from simple reading through to working with a culture coach such as myself. But we have to then turn that knowledge into a plan. And that's where the next stage comes in. CQ strategy. Now, CQ strategy takes all that wonderful knowledge, all those wonderful insights, and turns that into something you're going to action. So before an important meeting, it requires you to really think about how you're going to approach that meeting based on your own cultural background and how you like to operate and do things and do business. And then thinking about the other people in the room and what might be motivating them and how they interact and do business. It's with the planning aspect, with a strategy, that we can really work out, okay, what are we going to adjust here in our approach? How can we adapt ourselves to really think about how we can be more successful? Because if we're more successful in the meeting, in our interaction, then this means that we can actually have a good meeting. We can achieve progress on our projects, and we can deliver the results and our goals that we're looking for. So that planning is very, very important. But another aspect of CQ strategy is also making sure that we adjust the plan. So when we're in the moment, when we're in the meeting, really analysing what's going on here and is this working? If it's working, then great, we continue what we're doing. But if we notice that perhaps what we've planned to do isn't quite working, then it's adjusting ourselves, finding ways to adjust the plan and react to what's actually going on live. The final aspect of the framework is CQ action. And of course, a strategy without action is really just a plan. It doesn't really live. So we have to turn this into action. And there are different aspects of this. We can consider what we're going to do with our verbal communication, what we're going to say, how we're going to express ourselves, what's the important ways for us to speak. For example, whether that's about our pace of speech or adapting how we're expressing ourselves. But of course, it's not just what we say, it's how we say it as well. So body language is incredibly important, and we might need to think about different aspects of our body language to make sure that it works and is culturally appropriate for the situations and the meetings that we find ourselves in. And finally, we might need to think about aspects of our communication. If we're going into a meeting and we think there might be information that might need to be discussed and perhaps might lead to disagreement or even conflict, then we might need to plan what is the right way for me to disagree and actually think about culturally what is the right way to do this so that it works, it doesn't land too directly or too indirectly. So action is really about what are we choosing to change in ourselves? What action are we actually going to take in the meeting? And so, as you can see, this is a holistic approach. The 4 steps in some ways are very simple from the framework of the Cultural Intelligence Centre, but they're incredibly powerful. They lead us through a way for us to understand the total picture of our cultural intelligence and how we can influence and really make sure we're taking the steps to have better interactions, better relationships, and really meetings that lead us to progress our projects and deliver the results that we want to. So as we're coming to the end of this episode and this introduction to the idea of cultural intelligence, CQ, and how it works, I'm really interested to hear about your own experiences. Have you been in situations where you've seen somebody really demonstrating high in cultural intelligence? And what was it that they were doing that you felt was particularly powerful? Or perhaps you noticed the opposite. You noticed a situation where somebody wasn't particularly demonstrating very good or very high levels of cultural intelligence. And that really led to frustrations and delays in the project. It's interesting to kind of really see what you notice at the end of today's episode. And of course, if this topic has got you really curious and you want to learn more about this, then please do reach out to me. I'm always happy to have a conversation. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So my personal profile is Victoria Reynoldson, and that's spelt Rennoldsson. Or you can also kind of reach out to me if you're interested to learn more about the CQ assessments as well. So what that is actually taking an assessment with me so that you can get your own personal feedback on your current levels of CQ and how you particularly could improve these for better cross-cultural success. So if that's something of interest, again, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or there are various links in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure to share a bit more about CQ here. And as this show is relatively new, this is episode 5, I would absolutely love it if you have enjoyed today's episode or enjoyed other episodes I've been sharing, then please do subscribe to the show. If you particularly enjoy it, I would absolutely love it if you could rate it and write me a review. It means a lot to me personally. Just means that I can get the show out there and more with other people so they can also benefit from these strategies, skills and insights. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you next time.